Well, good evening. I think we're ready to get started with our program for this evening. I'm Dr. Barbara Fink, and I'm the LSAMP Alliance Director. I think all of you know me. How are things going for this semester? Are you finished? Almost finished for some of you, finished for some of you. That's good. Well, I want to thank the panel members so much for the time and effort they put into being here this evening with us to participate in this panel, which is part of the programming for the Lewis-Stokes Alliances for Minority Participation, or the LSAMP program. LSAMP is a program that's funded by the National Science Foundation that honors Lewis Stokes, our congressman from Cleveland. And the purpose of the LSAMP program is to increase underrepresented student retention and recruitment, and ultimately persistence and attainment of degrees in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM degrees. And our particular alliance is made up of 11 Ohio institutions, and the Ohio State University is the lead institution. So at each institution, some of the programming will include advisement and counseling, bridge programs and early arrival programs, tutoring and supplemental instruction, opportunities for faculty, mentored undergraduate research, as well as peer mentoring, workshops such as this, and then the students receive stipends for their participation in LSAMP University. I got my BS and OD degrees from Indiana University. I worked 3 years at Inter-American University of Puerto Rico, where I helped start a new school of optometry there. And then I came to Ohio State for my master's and PhDs in physiological optics, and I've been here at Ohio State since 1984. So why don't we start at the far end? I'll start with Dr. Schiff, since I know him fairly well, also at the College of Optometry. And again, a brief introduction of yourself, where you currently work, your educational background, and a brief description of your career path.
Okay, 1 minute, right? It's gonna be tough. You already know my name. I'm Dr. Melvin Schiff. I happen to be the Dean of the College of Optometry here at Ohio State. My degrees are, and I received my undergraduate degree of a Doctor of Optometry from Indiana University, a Master's in Public Health from Harvard University, and a DRPH from the University that's north of here. Can I say it?
You can say it.
University. My career path has been a little circular. Upon graduation, I joined the Navy as a result of a scholarship, and served 4 years in the Navy, and realized that I wasn't sure where I wanted to practice. And so then I went to the University of Birmingham, where I joined the faculty there and was then an academic administrator. Stayed there for some time, and migrated here north to Ohio State in 2004, and I'll be retiring in 2014. That's summer. And that's why I'm smiling.
Hello, my name is Carmel Thomas. I am currently a senior engineer with Cummins Engine Business out of Columbus, Indiana, excuse me. I have a bachelor's in product design engineering from Wayne State University. I'm currently finishing my master's there as well. My career path has been pretty direct. I've been with Cummins for about 4 years now. I'm working mainly with our global business units, helping them to do installations and installation quality.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angel Arroyo Rodriguez. I'm currently an environmental planner and sustainability coordinator with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency in the Division of Materials and Waste Management. My undergraduate, I completed my undergraduate at the University of Puerto Rico in Rio Piedras, doing my bachelor's in environmental science and biology. I was one of those that stayed longer, did double major, then came here to the Ohio State University and done my master's in molecular, cellular, and environmental biology. And as part of that, I decided that my love for science, for biology, also like the social sciences. So I did a double master's and senior regional planning, and I'm currently working on my PhD in senior regional planning.
Michelle Thomas. I currently work at Owens Corning, which is an installation company, and I work as an advanced engineer there, basically an early scientist. And I have my bachelor's in chemical engineering from the University of Notre Dame, my PhD also in chemical engineering from the University of Texas in Austin. There I studied neuroregeneration. In terms of career path, well, I've been in school for a really long time, and I just finished in December. So I have a very short career path, but in terms of internships, I worked at Frito-Lay, worked in food manufacturing, aircraft engines at GE. I have done polymer science at a company called Lyondell Chemical Company, so the derivatives of the oil and gas industry. And I did some IT consulting at Deloitte, which is one of the big 4 accounting firms. And then I had an internship at DuPont as well, so looking at coatings for paints and polymers. And then I had a Fulbright in the Caribbean, looking at how diabetes affects the population in the Caribbean. And then now I am actually working a full-time job, so at Owens Corning.
Thank you. My name is Leonard Sparks. I tried to look around to see who I recognize. Some of you may know me as Mr. Kosai. I work at Kosai and I've been there for 33 years. I probably work with some of your parents if you're from the Columbus area. I originally am from Oklahoma City, and I got my bachelor's degree at Lane College, which is one of the HBC schools. And then, of course, I came to Ohio State, where I received a master's in political science with an emphasis on public policy. When I came out of school, maybe older than you think I am, the government was being geared down. I couldn't find a job directly related to public policy. I fell back on what I got with my undergraduate degree, my teaching certificate. Found some employment at one of the country's unique science museums, and the rest is history, been there ever since. I have a rich history of pioneering Kosai on wheels, and if you've ever been to Kosai, one of my remote famous shows is I taught the original set of rats that play basketball. If you've ever seen a rat basketball show in Kosai, in 1983. And of course, my career path, how do I describe myself? I am a science educator in a glamorous classroom. If you've ever been to Kosai, you know it's unique and different. But I have the wonderful job of inspiring people to learn more about themselves in the future. So I'm very unique. I kind of get across all of these. I have to help people understand lenses so that they can better appreciate the eye doctor. I have to help people understand chemical properties so they can better appreciate things like we created the mummy exhibit and things like that. And so I have a rather diverse background. It's good to see you. And I brought toys in case you get bored. Mr. Kosai goes in. So there are weird objects on the. Never miss a teaching moment. Touch that for me now. Grab it. She brought the force with her today.
Man, how do I follow that? My name is Keisha Slaughter, and I am Vice President of Strategy and Process Improvement at JPMorgan Chase. My background is I went to Northwestern University, industrial engineering degree, and then went on to pursue my graduate degree at University of Texas, civil engineering with a concentration in transportation. So you asked, geez, how do you get to JPMorgan Chase? It's been a very, very diverse career. I've started in logistics, supply chain, started my career with UPS. I've done consulting, I've worked in various distribution companies. I partnered with this great guy here a while ago, several years ago, with LSAMP Learning Network, where I was a project manager there, helping science and engineering and STEM programs across Central Ohio, and helping STEM schools develop and STEM education summer programs. So I've had a very diverse career. I love enjoying, I enjoy learning. So when I get to a point where I'm not learning in a position where I kind of just gets to, business as usual, and then I start looking for something else to challenge me. So I had worked in the banking field, saw an opportunity to do process improvement, which is what I've done in every career, in every industry, and just was excited to see what I can do about it.
Okay, we can start in the first row down here.
Hello, my name is Khalid Brown. currently a product engineer for IBM. Originally a Brooklyn, New York resident, moved to Lexington, Kentucky, started my career path with IBM and global services. That went over to quality engineering, and now I'm currently role product engineering. I went to Morehouse College, Bachelor of Science with a minor in math and physics, dual degree major. Also went to Georgia Tech, have an industrial engineering degree, and probably 1,000 other things that I'm missing right here that I'm not telling you, but you can get it gist as we go through.
Hello, my name is Irene Llamas. I'm originally from Madrid, Spain. I had my bachelor's degree in the Polytechnic University of Madrid in naval architecture and marine engineering, and I came to the States to get my master's in the University of Iowa in computational fluid dynamics. And from there, I moved to Central Ohio to work for Rolls-Royce Energy, originally to do compressor design, and stayed with them for 7 years. After that, I moved to another company here in Central Ohio that did hydraulic power transmission. They design hydraulic motors for big crushers and things like that. So if you ever see a car crusher, the little motor that moves that's what we did. Then I moved to a company that did turbochargers for big diesel engine applications for a couple of years, and now I'm back with Rolls-Royce Energy as a technical bid support project manager. So,
my name is Brian Thomas. I am a graduate of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Industrial technology degree. Currently working on finding out where to go for my MBA. At a point in my career where to be a president or director, vice president, you need it. So be looking to start 2015 fall. My career, which I would encourage you to maximize with whatever company you work with, has taken me many places. I've worked in Memphis, Tennessee, Athens, Georgia, Michigan, Indiana, Alabama, Texas, just left China, just left Paris, France. We'll be back in Paris in 2 weeks, taking my wife and my mother for Mother's Day. These are the type of things that corporate America and just different companies and universities can provide. I encourage you to take advantage of those things. Make a lot of products. I've made things from superchargers for Corvettes, differentials, directional control valves. I worked in the food industry making waffles for Kellogg, and I currently make exhaust systems. So just a bit.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Russell Marzette. I'm originally from Fresno, California. I did my undergrad at University of the Pacific, where I received my Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. I worked for a very, very short time as an international laboratory, then flew off to grad school for my Master's in Mechanical Engineering at Georgia Tech. From Georgia Tech, I came here to Columbus to work for Battelle. I'm currently a practicing mechanical engineering research scientist. I'm one of the technical leads on a water drawing project here. I don't think I've a lot. It's been a very, very interesting ride from undergrad to where I am now. I'm also currently the NASA Black Engineers Local Professionals Chair.
Good afternoon, I think, or evening. My name is Ramona Reyes. I'm a little bit of an anomaly here. I did get my bachelor's here at Ohio State University. I got it in marketing and transportation logistics. I'm also a proud member of Alpha Psi Lambda fraternity, the Hispanic co-ed fraternity here at Ohio State University. I have about 4 jobs. I'm an associate publisher for Who's Who Latino Columbus. I do drug-free, substance-free workplace training in Spanish for a woman-owned company here in Columbus. I also I sit on the Columbus Board of Education, and I'm the first elected Latina to hold that post currently. And then the job that pays the bills is I have been working at Nationwide for over 21 years. I'm currently a human resource specialist, meaning I can get most of these people jobs, probably not Nationwide. But I've had 21 years, but I've had 9 or 10 different jobs. So I've been in public relations, I've been in IT, I've been in HR, I've been in customer service, I've been in investments. I've had to get licenses for each of those Series 6 licensures, all sorts of certifications and so forth. So as some of our colleagues here stated, take advantage of your opportunities with companies that actually have tuition reimbursement, because my next step is getting my master's in education. So.
Good evening. Sergeant Ken Reynolds, I'm a sergeant with the Columbus Police Department. I fly the helicopters that go over there, the football game on, and see the scores. Thank God they put that big screen down and we could actually see the game. My career started in aviation high school. I went to aviation high school back in Cleveland, Ohio. And shortly after I graduated, actually 2 days, I joined the military as a helicopter mechanic, and then got the opportunity to go to military flight school. And I retired from the military as a maintenance test pilot, flying Black Hawks and Hueys and Cobras. I'm a 20-year veteran of the police department, and I am, for the FAA, a designated examiner. I license new students that are getting their license to become airplane pilots and helicopter pilots. So I use my aviation every day, and it's a pretty long career. And my next step is looking for my doctorate with Embry-Riddle University, which is an aviation doctor.
Thank you for those introductions. I have a second question that I would like all of you to answer in turn. That question is, what challenges associated with being a person of color have you experienced in your career paths? And if you're a woman, what challenges have you experienced as a woman of color? So, Dr. Shipp, do you want to start again, or should we let someone else have that pleasure?
It's fine. I'm older, so I've probably had more experiences, so it may take longer. No, I'm kidding. I think all of us here understand the meaning of that question. And I think all of us understand that each of us have had our experiences with the burden, I should say, in this country and society of being a person of color or being a female, or the combination of being a female person of color. It's even more severe, sure. The challenges that I faced, because when I was at your point, your age, that was a little while ago, and this country was undergoing major changes. And at that time, and even now, the expectation was that if you want to be successful, you had to run faster, jump higher, excel at a higher degree than others to have the same opportunities. Well, I did that, and I'm sure the other panelists here had the same experience. And quite frankly, although at the time I was a bit resentful, at this point in my life, when I look back, I'm kind of glad, because it allowed me to really excel, to force myself to go the extra mile, to really determine what I could do. And as I look back, I've done far more than I ever could have imagined in terms of my career, personal development, etc. So, although at the time, like I said, it was not a pleasant experience, but I turned it around and made something positive.
I would have to say that for me, the challenge that I've seen really originated when I was interning in Ohio, was a cultural type of challenge. I felt that there was a learning curve for me to try to understand persons of different backgrounds, and for them to understand myself, and for all of us to speak the same cultural language as for the company. Each company has a different vibe or a different way that they do business. And I think going in and learning, okay, this is how this company operates. When they're saying these words, this is what they mean. And I think the thing that helped me was not being afraid to say, I don't know what you're talking about, or can you explain that a different way for me? So if you say that you need to do this faster, what does faster mean to you? To me, that means you need this probably in an hour. Let me know if it's different. So it was almost like a cultural translation of just the normal everyday things that the company knew that I may not have known being an outsider.
For me, in terms of the culture shock that I had was when I moved. I I grew up in Puerto Rico. I went to college there. I knew English, knew how to read and writing English really well because most of our texts were in English. But I really didn't speak the language. Once when I came to Ohio State, the graduate program, they took this English as a second language exam. Of course, in the 90-something percentile, they sent me as a TA. And I completely panicked because I just couldn't speak the language. So the first 2 months of me as a TA, I have to practice everything every night, how I was going to say it. I have to write everything. And luckily, the students, most of the students were pretty cooperative, and it just became kind of a nice exchange. Certainly, a couple students sometimes get a little reflection, and you have to handle them. But it really wasn't a big deal. Then I spent here in graduate school for a long time. I know it's a socially diverse place. That me having an accent, me being from different places really wasn't an issue. Once I went to work at Ohio APA, that's when actually I met for the first time people that had grown and lived all their life here in Columbus. And the way that they saw the city, the way that they saw the environment was very different than me, than what I saw. And right now, the Ohio APA probably 2 Puerto Ricans and Malayans, it's 1,200 people, so it's a little different. And then on top of that, I'm probably the biggest Puerto Rican there is. So one of the most things that people say when I say I'm from Puerto Rico, I said, but you don't look Puerto Rican. I said, so what is Puerto Rican supposed to look like? So people, sometimes people look at me, they don't say anything until they hear me accent, is that that where's this guy from? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Actually, most of the time, I cannot say I ever had a bad experience because of that. That's actually like an icebreaker for me. And even when I go, I travel all throughout Ohio for my work. I go to small towns, and some people, they generally ask, I never heard your accent before. Where you are? Talking. So I never really had a, I would say, terrible experience with that experience. Maybe twice as other people kind of react a little different, but I cannot say that I have a bad experience. I think it's all how you take it, it's all how you handle it. And for me, it's actually being different than everyone else has been in past.
Hello. I want to echo what Angel said. I think that a lot of times we can get wrapped up in no one else here looks like me. I can't blatantly identify with someone, therefore I obviously do not make friends, and that I think is very limiting. So I would say that just because no one looks like you does not mean that they would not be your friend. But also, just because someone does look like you doesn't mean you have an automatic built-in friend. So what I would say is try to resonate with everyone on a person-by-person level. I understand feeling isolated. I went to Notre Dame for undergrad. I am not the normal demographic of a Notre Dame student. So it was a huge culture shock coming from Texas, and I'm Caribbean, so I don't really like the cold. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's kind of something I'm just into. So there were a lot of other things that if you allow them, can stand in the way. So there are generational differences, there are gender differences, there are cultural differences, there's socioeconomic differences. So there are a lot of things that if you allow them to, they definitely can stand in your way, but you don't have to. If you open your heart and open your mind, then I think you can find a lot of common ground. Obviously, in grad school, I was the only brown person in my entire department. But I have to say, I had honestly a very beautiful experience. And yeah, I mean, there weren't any other people of African descent in my department. And there were maybe 5% women. To the fact we had to ask the cleaning staff to service the ladies' restroom because they weren't used to servicing it because there were so many men, right? So yes, those things do exist, but I think you have to decide to engage in them and decide to allow them to wear on you. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond.
Well, let me see. Thank you, because many of you have come through the thing, and I guess this is a testament to how far we've come. I'm turbulent time during the 80s in school integration. There are ugly things. There are times when there was an incident where people actually opened fire on a school bus. Kids getting off a bus, being bused. So I have lived through that experience. I was active in my youth with the NAACP, and if I bring it home, I pioneered Co-Sign on Wheels, which is a traveling science show. Big business now, 14 people in a fleet of trucks, travel Ohio and 3 surrounding states. How do I say this to you? People used to think I was the movie man. They would look around me, expecting someone else to follow. But I would set up the show, do the show, perform the show, take the show down, and I did not let it get in my way. How do I take it? It was probably not an easy thing to do, but I was committed. Somehow, here's what it is, the legacy. Because I went through it, like some of your parents and grandparents, the effort to stand tall and to be the best you could be. And that is what it's all about. And I say I applaud you because you're sitting in the room. Many of you probably know that we weren't always able to do this. Sit next to each other. All right? And so some of us have lived that personally. Believe it or not, I'm old enough and I don't believe that, but I have. When people expected me to go somewhere else when I walked in the room. But that's what it was like for me. But it took willpower, and it took me people stepping out in those early years so that we could stand on their shoulders. So that's what it was like for me, and we've come through it all. But the point is, you all are, I would like to say, the remnants of the legacy. And what's the testament now? There are still some challenges out there. And the fact that you're standing arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, means that some of you are choosing to do something about it.
I agree with Leonard. I know that there are definitely challenges. I've experienced challenges outside of the current position I currently am in. I've been definitely the only woman, in most cases, the only African American, the only person of color. And, you know, especially coming, I think, probably coming from school, high school to college, I think that was the biggest challenge for me. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. It's primarily African American, so going to a school where there's 4 to 5% African American students was a challenge. But you know, I definitely grew up with a sense, and was, you know, it was ingrained in me that you have to be better, you have to work harder. So, like Dr. Shipp said, you know, that at times felt resentful, but you know, right now where I stand, you know, I'm proud of that. I'm proud that those are the values that I had. You know, being a woman, I think I'm always conscious about not being stereotyped, not being, you know, so controlling my emotions, not, you know, giving anyone additional reason to, you know, what someone else can say and how I can say it. You know, the fact of the matter is different. You know, it can be perceived that, oh gosh, she's too emotional. You know, and being in a leadership position, you want people to respect you. You don't want them to question your judgment. So I'm always conscious about what I'm wearing, what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, making sure that I'm fair to everyone, just to make sure that, you know, the performance that I have, I need it to be better. It has to be better in order to succeed. So I just encourage you guys to, you know, take advantage of all the opportunities, take advantage of the support, take advantage of mentors. Definitely had great mentors, still have great mentors that help me see myself in a different light. So I definitely encourage you guys to do that.
So I faced some challenges coming up in my career. On a basic level, I think the best thing to do is just to be assertive. I pride myself on being able to talk to pretty much anybody, anywhere. From Brooklyn, went to school in Atlanta, so I had a diverse array of people around me all the time. It's always good to have knowledge of the background or interest in people you're going to be in struggles with, your employers. That's usually the best way to get your foot in the door. But if you're assertive and show them how serious you are, then one of my things is to always think of the question my boss hasn't asked yet. So frequently I'll come in with suggestions for certain things that maybe haven't been thought about, along with being able to reach people in positions that may be way higher than me or way lower than me. That was probably one of my key tactics before I got to RTP and IBM. I spoke to the vice president the same way I spoke to the janitor that I saw every day. So a lot of things came my way because they knew I can get it done, just because they knew I had no problem talking to anyone, and they also knew that I treated everybody the same for the most part. But on a basic level, like I said, just be assertive, let everyone know how serious you are when you approach something, and I would say don't take no for an answer. Don't be I don't want to use a bad word here, but you understand what I'm saying. Just let someone know how serious you are. I was an adjunct professor at a community college in New York while I was working in New York for IBM as well. And I got teacher of the year. A lot of things that I'm sure a lot of people here do, a lot of accolades that we get, a lot of pedestals that people put you on, but as long as you do what you love, as long as you take everything that you do serious, you don't really have to notice it yourself. Other people will notice it for you. So again, just be serious in what you're doing, be assertive in everything that you do, and there'll be challenges, but for the most part, you'll be able to make it through.
Hi. Well, one of my biggest challenges, I guess, is when you move from a different country and you have to get used to people sometimes not understanding you or thinking that your accent is too thick, and all the cultural differences that come through. Then that's at the beginning, it's a little bit of a challenge. Then it helps you because you never take anything for granted, or you never assume that anybody's going to give you anything or any type of response. Like when you are used to see always people similar to you or the same type, you are always looking at them with an assumption that what's the answer they are going to give you when you put something in front of them. So that is something that you have to get rid of pretty quickly, because the world is pretty transnational right now, and you are going to work with people from every place in the world, and the way that you think that somebody's going to answer you is never the way that they're going to do it, because they come from a completely different background, and it's very difficult sometimes when you are involved in a very deep, in a big place where everybody is just like you, to accept that the answer that the other person is giving you is just as valid as the one that the majority of the group is giving you. So if you are a minority, you have to get used to the fact that they always double question you, because you are coming from a completely different point of view. Also, as a woman, you always have the challenge of having to project a very serious facade, so you have to be very careful with how you talk, how you dress, and how you conduct yourself. Otherwise, they will write you off so fast that you don't even know what happened. So it's very important that all you ladies be very mindful when you go to interviews and when you go to work on how you always present yourself very assertively. Because at least I have always worked in an industry where I'm the only woman in the room all the time, and they have this tendency to just treat you like you are the little girl in the room, like you didn't go through school or things like that. So you have to pass through that and project yourself very assertively to make them know that you are here for the same reasons and you are a very serious person. So that's an extra challenge for the women that I don't think the guys have sometimes, that you are just have to get over it very quickly, because it's going to happen to you a lot, especially at the beginning when you guys just leave school and you look very young. And everybody thinks that you're the secretary, or you're there to take notes, or they send you for coffee, and you're just, what happened here? But sometimes you also will go to customers that they come from a culture where women don't have positions of power, so it's an extra added layer where they don't want to talk to you, even though you are the person in charge. So you're going to have to learn to deal with that and don't let it face you, because at the end of the day, you're in charge. That's the only thing that matters.
I'll start with the challenge just in my career. Last 8 years, I've lived in 7 cities, 6 states, and 8 job titles. I'm giving you those figures because it's fear. The greatest challenge is the fact that I've started over that many times, and you have to basically hit the restart button over and over and continue to prove yourself, even though you're getting promoted. The higher you go within a company, it's hard. The higher chance, the greater chance you have of losing your job is when you actually get promoted. More pressure, more responsibility. As a person of color inside of corporate America, I think the hardest thing to do is actually to not allow any frustration to show. You have to learn how to vent outside of the workplace, or have someone inside the workplace that you can talk to if needed. But if there's any problems you run into within a person of color, or any concerns you have, you're gonna have to find that place of refuge, because it's not acceptable behavior. You know, like I said earlier, someone may think you're emotional and can't be trusted or things like that. So, as a person of color, that is extremely concerning when you try to hold it in. So you have to find a place to vent. From the woman's standpoint, I want to speak just on the woman's standpoint real briefly. As a person who has women who work for him and have worked with women, one of the things I see is the greatest challenge for women. One is the attire that women wear, making sure that you're presentable and professional. But the biggest is when I look at a person in college, because I worked in recruiting also, the first thing that a lot of recruiters do is look at a young man's potential. They don't look at the young woman and say, that can be our vice president. A lot of recruiters naturally look at a man and say, he can be a future leader. So when you're young at this point in your career, that first presentation you give to one of the companies that recruits you, show them the leadership inside of you. And that starts with how you talk, how you walk, your behavior, your handshake. But let them see that you can be something, because that's what companies invest in. They're paying you money because they want you to be something greater later in life. So as a woman, it's that first interaction that you have that really gain a mentor and someone to support you.
Challenges. One of the first things that comes to mind is from grade school, we've always hated to know a person. And as far as I can remember back, in 6th grade, there was my 6th grade teacher told my parents, no, essentially you can't go to the math science now, so you have good grades, but you're not going to survive. The teacher told me it would be an honor to find those examples of almost nonsense reasons why I couldn't succeed kept repeating themselves throughout my academics, and have continued into my professional career. People, from a professional standpoint, countermanding decisions or second guessing my direction. They're not necessarily being a good reason. That's something you can never always put your finger on it from a person of color standpoint, but you always suspect that there's a cultural issue there at minimum, and that's always a challenge to live with. Another aspect is you may be the first, or you may be virtually the first. And one thing I'm always fond of saying is we're still in the time of first. There are people who are still the first one to go to college, nonetheless get a STEM degree. First, being a politician in a particular area, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then you come into the workplace, and though you may be by far not the first minority in the department, there may be 200 engineers, and at that time, you are the only one. And so it's like you are virtually the first. And in that sense, you are always breaking the ground, and again, that can be very, very challenging. One of the the things that comes also to mind is as you amass all of these experiences, some of these can be very heavy, can be very negative as you're going through them, and you survive and move on and continue to excel. But those collective experiences build your character. It's important to understand how those experiences build your character. So, my recommendation would be really take time to understand yourself, because you will carry those things through with you. It might be something that, as I mentioned, makes you resentful, might make you overly cautious, might make you defensive. And you need to understand how those things have shaped you, and if nothing else, turn them into a positive. To do that, you need to be very, very deliberate at times. Very deliberate. Success is a deliberate effort. And so, again, I just urge you, as has been said, seek out mentors, seek out sponsors. A lot of times the resources will not be given to you outright, and the resources you need may not be obvious, so you're going to have to really ask questions, to protect the training you need, to make sure you're getting the soft skills that you need.
I was angry. So I'll just say it out here, I was angry. I was angry when I was in second grade. They told me I couldn't speak Spanish. And I was in South Texas where there was 75% of people that just looked just like me. And I'm like, what, are you kidding me? Everyone's talking Spanish in the playground. Even our teachers speak to us in Spanish. How am I supposed to talk to my grandmother if you're telling me I'm not supposed to be speaking Spanish? Obviously that all didn't carry out very, very long. I eventually, not me, but eventually we learned that that was not something that we were going to follow. But I was very angry. I was very angry when I got to high school. And they told me because I'm a child of a migrant family that travels from Texas to Ohio, to Indiana, to Utah, to other places and picks fruit and vegetables for a living, that there's no way I could possibly be in honors classes. Because there's no way with my interrupted schooling that I could actually do what everybody else did and actually keep up. And I said, well, why don't you let me decide that? And they started me at the bottom. And I said, that's okay. When I finish, I'm going to be in those honors classes. I'm going to be taking those IPs. He's like, oh, really? Ha, ha, ha. How are you going to get to college? Don't worry about it. I'll figure that out. That's hard work. And eventually, I was fortunate enough that professors here at Ohio State created the Campbell Soup Migrant Scholarship Program. And they were out looking in South Texas and found this little Latina, kind of spicy, did band, dead track, and they said, we want you to come to Ohio State, which took several visits, because and those of you who come from very overprotective dads, try to convince your father that their little daughter is going to go 5,000 miles north with nobody to watch over them. And I had 6 brothers, so I had a lot of security. But fortunate enough to keep on going. I was very angry when I worked with the Department of Highway Safety, i.e. Highway Patrol. And they're like, ooh, it'd be nice to have a girl patrolman. But you have to start here. But I have a college degree, but you have to start here. But I know that guy started with some stripes on his shirt. Nope, not wearing a monkey suit, not gonna do it, sorry, no offense. I was very angry. Then I was very angry as I decided that I wanted to be in IT, and someone said, there's no way because you don't have an IT background. Really? Well, I don't have a job, I need a job. I just got a 60-day notice. I can't work, I need a job. Thankfully, somebody said, I'll teach you. All right, I'll learn. Did that for 3 years. Then they said, hey, there's a public relations job open. Wonderful, I'll take it. Well, you need to interview. Okay. You have a public relations background? No, but I'll learn. Sure enough, went up there. Then guess what? You don't see the beautiful person now. Back then, I had long curly hair, had curly, long, didn't look like anybody. Was the only Latina on a public relations floor where everybody dressed a certain way, looked a certain way, and everyone told me, oh, okay. I interviewed with Univision. I interviewed with Telemundo. I was the face of my organization, but then my supervisor called me in and says, you don't look the part. You don't dress right. There's something wrong. I said, wow, really? Pulled out a picture, just happened to have a picture here. Tell me how I'm not dressing. I think someone said earlier, make sure you get clarity. Find out what it is that you're not doing. Find out what they want. I said, tell me what you need me to look like. Tell me what you need me to be in order to, What is interrupting? What's keeping you from telling or giving me that high performance? I don't know. Okay. Went to my mentor, distraught, angry too. Said, I don't understand. I don't understand where this came from. I don't get it. And this is the advice that in this for women, Latinos, anybody. They said, pull up. I had at that time all the Latina style magazines, the Hispanic business magazines. He goes, go in there, pull the pages and look at all the women. Look at all of them and then come back and tell me what you see. Well, actually, he said, look at all the women, then close the book and then go around your floor and look at all the women on your floor. I said, all right, I can do that. Went out there, looked at the paper. Black Latinas, white Latinas, brown Latinas, Asian Latinas, short hair, black hair, red hair, orange hair, long hair, curly hair, straight hair. I'm like, okay, and I closed the page. Then I walked on my floor. Short, blonde, short, blonde, short, brunette, short, brown, short. And I'm like, wow. Then I went back to my mentor and he said, what'd you see? I told him what I saw. And he goes, and how are you different? I'm very different. He goes, does that prevent you from doing your job? I said, no. He goes, so whose problem is it? Is it your problem or your boss's problem? I said, I think it's my boss's problem. And I continued to show up, and use, and a lot of people say don't use your emotion. I wasn't angry, I wasn't stomping my feet, I wasn't saying you're wrong. But what I was doing, I was showing up, and I was making sure that my work, there was nothing that they were going to say about my work. One of the sayings that I've been raised with is, you do your job so well that even when you're not there, they know who did it. But that also reminds me, you have to also be humble, right? I could walk around with a big head and say I'm the first Latina, I'm this, I'm that. I've survived 4 60-day notices at Nationwide. You've tried to get rid of me, all that. But you gotta be humble, you gotta show up to work, and you gotta make sure that you are aggressive and let people know that you have the skills to do your job.
I gotta renegotiate my bodyguard contract with Ramona. Me and Ramona have been friends for a long time, and the challenges that I've seen, usually someone else is telling me, you know, they just treated you wrong or something like that. I've tried not to let things get me bogged down. My mom came from Puerto Rico when she was 21 years old, did not know any English, and did not graduate from high school. When she got to Cleveland, she went back to school and was able to retire as a Cleveland teacher from the Cleveland Board of Education there. She taught English as a second language. So I saw that as she didn't see any challenges, she saw all the opportunities. I have 2 daughters that graduated from college. One's in Chicago right now getting a master's in architecture. It's a field that very few women are in, let alone Latina women. And she's doing it because she can do it. And we have the opportunities to do it here. Everything that I've been able to do is because I thought I could do it. I didn't think that I should be stopped because I'm Latino. If you look at everybody's history and resume here, the one times that I felt is, you know, I take my resume, I've done all this stuff, and maybe it fills out this whole table, and then someone says, yeah, but the other guy is male white, so we should give him the job, right? Well, if you let that bother you, you'll never get anything. So I've never let somebody thinking that another person is better because of the color of his skin. I can fly helicopters, I can fly airplanes. Next week I'm gonna go fly a jet, which is, for me, it's pretty cool. And these opportunities come because I'm capable of doing it. And people see me do my work before, and they come back and give me more opportunities. So none of you guys should be able to, you know, because the way you look should stop you. It should be even, yeah, by the way, you know, I'm good at what I do. And by the way, I'm Hispanic, or I'm male black, or I'm female. That brings success to you. It shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't bog you down. It should just enhance you.
you. Thank you for your candor and for your insights. I have a whole long list of questions I could ask all of you, but I'm only going to ask one more, and then I'm going to open it up for the students to ask questions. So start thinking about what you want to ask and who you want to ask. My final question for you, for now at least, is how did you become interested in your field, and what is the most rewarding aspect of your field?
I think my initial exposure to optometry was at classroom in middle school. And it's first day class, and so the teacher asked us to come into the room and take a seat. But rather than allowing us to pick the seat we wanted, she had us sit according to her chart, and so she'd be able to identify us in her needs very quickly. Well, just so happens that I ended up being the next to the last to my row, which is fine, until she started writing the board. And then I turned to my neighbor and I said, how does she expect us to read that? And my neighbor said, I can read that. And I thought, yeah, right. I turned to the person on the other side and said, read that. And he said, yeah. And I thought, they're pulling my legs. So I thought, there's a guy behind me who looks pretty serious when I asked him. And I did. And he said, yes. So then I realized I had a problem. And that first day of class was pretty tough, but I went home and told my mother this story. Her initial response was, oh, you just want glasses. I said, no, Mom, that's really what happened. And she thought about it for a moment, and she broke out into tears. And I thought, wow, I just couldn't see the board, that's all. But she was thinking, as all of our mothers do, how have I failed my child by not providing him with the appropriate tools to be successful in school? It didn't take long before I had my first eye exam, got glasses, and realized what I'd been missing. And it wasn't just seeing the board, because it impacted my life in other ways too. When I would play, pick up baseball games, I was always the next to the last person being chosen to play. And typically they assigned me right field, because I was the guy who couldn't see the ball, or didn't catch the ball well, or didn't hit the ball. Well, once I got my glasses, everything changed. I played second, shortstop, and I batted either third or fourth. So it changed me in a way, a very dramatic way, and I realized that this person who did the science exam on me and determined my problem in very short order. Again, those of you who are sitting in the room with glasses on know exactly what I mean. I thought, I wouldn't mind doing that and making a difference in people's lives in a very positive way. So that's kind of where it all started, and I have a very strong appreciation for math, trigonometry, calculus, physics. So again, the STEM disciplines, and realize how significantly each one of those particular interests are part of the foundation of optometry. And so there was a natural match, and so that is kind of a short way of saying that's how I got where it was. But the other part of this, and it's the underlying part, is that I like helping people. And so that put all of those preferences together in one place, and so that's how I became an optometrist.
I'll just start by saying my most rewarding is what I do today, and that is I really enjoy interacting with local demographics, working with people across the world, and helping them to become one with my vision, my company, and just execute the mission. And this ties into being a first generation American, and my dad being a mechanic, always being able to work with my hands and see him working with his hands. I started out, I originally wanted to be an architect. So I did a lot of tinkering, building houses, and then one day I got tired of just building houses. I wanted to build robots, and I wanted to build machines, and I came up with just different ideas of things I wanted to do. By the time I got to high school, I had programs such as LSAMP, the kind of program that this had that really helped me to fine-tune what I wanted to do. I found that I like to see my creations come from idea all the way to seeing them being produced and out in the field. So that's how I got got into engineering and what I do today.
Well, for me, my interest had always been evolving, and still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. But I always kind of know that science is what I like, what I migrated to. And even thinking back when planning, it was like kind of child that we're all going to play. I have to organize how everything was going to go, where everyone's going to play. We're playing. We have a whole backyard set up as a city where we're there to play. And I always liked science. And I actually went to college thinking that I was going to be in pre-med. And that's how I started. And until I realized that we have to cut up in people and that wasn't going to fly with me. So, and I actually even applied for pharmacy school. And I almost made it. Luckily, I was just the first alternate. And that day I just went and said I was going to go to environmental science. Because it's more broad, it's more interdisciplinary. I could do science, but I could do something that affects more the world. And I was always the kind of person, whenever when I with my friends, that I want to collect litter, collecting recyclables, cleaning up around. So that allows me to do that. Then as I was doing that, I also discovered that I like science, I like research, and that's why I ended up doing biology also, and doing a lot of ecological research. Came to Ohio State, and as I'm doing biology, that didn't completely fulfill. I wanted more of the interaction. I didn't like being in the lab, but just to other people all day. I like science, but I like how do we apply it. And that's how I started developing. And actually my field is kind of different. When I came to the planning program, there was no one that had a biology background. And people asked me, what are you doing here? Everyone comes here from geography or political sciences. And I thought, well, they're environmental planners. They need to know about the environment. No, so I don't think this is such a crazy idea. And over the years, I came to Ohio EPA. I wanted to be an environmental planner doing some waste, but actually what got me hired was all my technical background in biology. And that's how I started. I started doing getting involved in policy. That's what I wanted. My job wasn't really planning, but I made it a planning job. And eventually that's how I had evolved, and they gave me a lot of opportunities. As part of planning for Ohio EPA, things that I have done, the city of Columbus now has the curbside collection program. The blue cards, you guys have seen them, and how people are using them in Columbus. We didn't used to have that, and I helped with part of the team to develop all the surveys that were done to the citizens, trying to figure out what people wanted, the frequency, plan out the logistics of how the recycling program was going to work. And that, to me, that was very fulfilling. Also, we had the stadium. You guys know that we had the Zero Waste Stadium, and we had a very green stadium. It took me many years to work with the university, but actually, I was involved in that part in helping them figure out who can service, where you can take your compostables, where you can buy some of the materials, what do you need to eliminate. So involved in all these kind of behind the scenes things that to me are very rewarding, the kind of things that I enjoy. Basically helping other people succeed at doing their job is what is more important to me. And sometimes I completely forget all the things that I have done until, oh, I have a little bit of input of these. Also, as part of something else, just follow what you like. Any job is what you make it. From any job, you can learn. When I graduated from Ohio State with 2 masters, you know what my first job was? Working at Kohl's in the shelves department, folding clothes. I did that for 4 months. Actually, that helped me get my job because my job has a lot of interaction with the public. That helped me demonstrate to them that I have experience working with the public. So even that job that's insignificant in comparison with what I do now was really a very learning experience for me that I could leverage from my other job.
Well, also like Carmela, you know, is a first generation. And so I come from a Caribbean family, and I don't know how many of you all are Caribbean, but if you go to college, there are only really 3 options to study. You could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a big manager, and engineer kind of falls along in there somewhere. So science and science-ish type things, that was pretty much the only option. So my dad is a petroleum engineer, and so he said, you should be a chemical engineer because chemical engineering is more broad than petroleum. So I said, okay, sounds too shabby. But I also like to argue, so I was like, I want to be a lawyer, so I'll be like a chemical engineering lawyer. So I carried a briefcase to school, and a backpack and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a lawyer. And then I saw those commercials, you know, like in the middle of the day, they're like, I can get you $100,000 for your car accident and all that stuff. I was like, I don't want to be on commercials in the middle of the day. Like, I have to off my children. Like, no, this cannot be my life. Okay, so enter chemical engineering, right? And they said chemistry was the most difficult major you could have. And I was like, well, I'll start with the smartest one, and I'll just fall into one of the dumber majors. And well, I graduated, so I just went from a chemical engineer. But seriously, I really enjoy the applied nature of science, which I think is I know really wanted to allude to. So for me, it doesn't really matter what that application is. So it could be a product. So a lot of us are in industry, and so industries are there to make money, and so they have products. Or it could be more on the policy side, so really influencing how governments interface with each other and with their respective societies. So for me, it doesn't really matter what that final thing is, as long as it is really translating the idea, the process, solving that problem, and really bringing that to fruition. So for me, that is the most fulfilling aspect of it, and not being on a time TV.
All right. What inspired me and what is most rewarding? I have to tell the first story. My friend, the eye doctor down there, I got all the way to high school before I figured out that I couldn't see. I didn't get my glasses until my junior year of high school. And then, it was a new world. I'm just like, whoa, like, who are you? So that was an interesting story. Well, here it is, what inspired me? And this is maybe something that inspired you. Someone believed in me. In middle school, wonderful teacher, just happened to be, I thought later, she was attractive too, but she was my French teacher, and I can share that now as an adult. It's probably inappropriate back then. But one day she kept me after school, and she sat me down, and she spoke to me very sternly. She showed me 2 examples of my work. One example, something I probably made an A on. Another example, something I made a C on. And she was very stern. She said, Leonard, what is this blank? And what is this? And she looked me in the eye. I don't want to see this anymore. This is what I want to see. Why don't you believe in yourself? And I looked at that lady in the eye and went, why are you talking to me like that? What do you see that I don't see? That adult saw something in me and helped me find my switch. And when I found that switch and turned it on, look out. Now that's probably happened for many of you. All right? So Keisha is familiar with this. She's seen me working with students. So here's a little quick philosophy that I try to bring with me and have been doing it now for over 33 years. If you want somebody to be excited about learning, you must get excited. Students model adult behavior. They will grow up to be just like you. That's the scary part. Just like you. So what inspired me was somebody believed in me. Now, what's the most rewarding thing? Something that I try to pass on. And I can see it on some of your faces already. You have friends who sit around waiting for the teachers to tell them everything. You got a few friends like that in school, you know? That's like wanting cookies but not wanting to cook them. You understand what I'm talking about? Your little brother and sister know where mom and dad keep the food at home. And if they want something bad enough, they know how to get it. I'll say it to you. If you want something bad enough, you know how. Why are we sitting around waiting for somebody else to tell us something? My philosophy is simple, and this is what motivates me and inspires me. If you want cookies, you learn to cook. And if you want knowledge, you go get it. Stop waiting for somebody to give it to you. That's what I love. That's what motivates me, to help people to reach inside themselves. A teacher inspired me, and I love helping people to find that switch. Now, some of you have probably already been involved as mentors. Have you, some of you shared the joy of helping a child find their switch? Anybody? Did you mentor a young child? When a child finds that switch and turns it on, you step back. So that's what inspires. And probably to the day I die. All right, I'm done with my sermon.
In the interest of time, I'm going to ask you to give a little bit shorter response because other students have time.
Coming after Leonard. Gotta keep the momentum. How did I get involved in engineering? I guess the first thing is really my love for math. And when I say I love math, I love math. And I've always loved math. So, I honestly went to college thinking that, similar to Rochelle, I wanted to be a lawyer. But realized very early on that I really didn't like writing papers and really gravitated to classes that had that 3 to 5 page maximum, not the 8 to 10, and certainly not the 25 to 30 page paper. Obviously, over my career, that has changed, but at that point in time, as 18-year-old, realized, oh my goodness, I have to make a career change, and I need to do it very quickly. So I started thinking, what do I love? What do I enjoy? What am I passionate about? And really came back to my love for math and really started looking at careers that I could do that all the time and get paid doing it. So I was always a member of National Society of Black Engineers and just felt like engineering was a great fit for me. I guess the most rewarding for me is, and it sounds corny, but making a system better. I go to restaurants, I go on vacations, and my mind just automatically is thinking, that's not very efficient. I'm in line thinking, why can't they do this better? So making things better in any situation, it's kind of annoying to my friends and my boyfriend. They're like, just calm down, just sit there, it's okay, stand in line, it's fine. But I'm the one that's saying, no, I need to let them know their process is broken. So I'm that person. I'm sure they don't always appreciate that, but that's what's most rewarding to me is when I can make the process better.
I'll say, well, I'm a person who likes puzzles, I like processes. My favorite TV show is Lost. I had an Uncle John who was the cheapest man in the world. He built his own house in Florida for $9,000. He was a cop, a New York City police officer for 20 years, fireman for 20 years. I don't know how you do that at the same time. Drove an 18-wheeler, very mechanically inclined. Anyway, he was my biggest inspiration, really. How can you save a buck and get everything done? And my goal, which seemed like on a daily basis, was to get the VCR with a lamp that I took apart before my mother comes home back together. So every day was a race against the clock. And that was the motivation as well, because if you can get it together before she gets home, you feel like you succeeded. And most of the time I did. Maybe the rewind button didn't work, or maybe the lamp doesn't get as bright as it did before I touched it. But pretty much I knew at that point that I needed to go into engineering. And the reason I chose industrial engineering, I got a little bit of mechanical, a little bit of electrical, even some civil that you get to touch when you're doing industrial engineering. So I got a little bit of aspect of each of those. And I have a hidden love of marketing. So similar to what some of the other panelists said, I'm always looking at how something can be better. And along with teaching as an adjunct professor, when you can get someone to learn something, like Leonard said, that's very inspirational, but you always want to make sure that you're on your toes so that you can teach somebody the correct thing, whatever it is that you're going to teach. So it's actual motion, basically, where the inspiration and motivation comes from.
Well, I got kind of like the same problem as you. My mom was terrified every time she saw me with a screwdriver. So I always was very intrigued about how things work. I wanted to know how everything works, and I put it apart and not sometimes came exactly together. That's how everything started. I was also really good at math, so that just put all together, and the fact that I love ships took me to marine engineering, and that's how my life started. I think the most rewarding part of being an engineer is the fact that you get, or at least in my career, your customers come to you with a problem and you have to figure out how to solve and to make it work. And it is very rewarding to see what they need done to develop the solution and to see it back implemented in the field working right. So that's really good.
All right, does anyone know Help Me, Help You? You Happy Yet? Hello? What movie is that? Jerry Maguire. Sorry, man. I know, that's the funny part. So those that have seen that movie, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a sports agent. I played baseball in college. My family, a lot of baseball players. I wanted to be a sports agent, and then I made a robot in high school and wanted to be a mechanical engineer. So I was going to Texas A&M, and then I got a baseball scholarship, so I wanted to be a baseball player with Arkansas Pine Bluff. Then I got there, wanted to make products, so got into industrial. Then I went to my first job out of college into sanitation. And so with that being said, why I am where I am, it's not about really inspiring, it's about there's nothing that you can't do, you know, and there's always opportunities. If you want to get in one career field, that's great. I think everyone on this panel has done more than one thing. So my inspiration is doing new things, new challenges, and just being excited about the next step. What's rewarding in my job is I love people, I love teaching, I love educating. Though I am hardcore in corporate America, I look at the 75 people that report to me as my classroom. And so for me, I'm a teacher. I'm just a teacher in corporate America. So that's my joy every day.
I am the original nerd. I'm a prototypical nerd. I have not known a time that I did not want to be an engineer. Played with Lincoln Logs, Legos, Commodore 64. I sat programming on the floor, went out in the dirt and pushed dirt around, crushed up charcoal, make the road look black, dug holes in the ground. I have always, as far as I can tell, wanted to be an engineer. So it's been an interesting path in different stages. I will tell you that, you know, I think for me, it's the creative process. It's, you know, in high school, you know, I thought I wanted to be civil, and I decided that from a physics standpoint, I needed more. I wanted to be able to integrate different aspects of technology together, and so I drifted more towards mechanicals. I had to go and do my degree in mechanical, my interests are diverse, so I can say I've never regretted it. There was always something else I said, I would have done that. Because there's just so much out there. I will tell you that, you know, there's nothing. There was a moment just a short while ago in my career where I was sitting in a room around a table, and I just kind of zoned out of the conversation for a minute. And what my mind focused on was that I was sitting around this table and I realized, how about an actual engineer? We're sitting on this table, we're solving a problem. Almost like we were in school, but this is actually real. We're actually trying to solve a real problem, discussing it, trying to figure out how we can be successful in making this project happen. It was just an amazing moment in terms of realizing that this thing that, you know, I think I always gravitated, I finally made it there. You know, it is very, very rewarding to see possibilities become natural creation. Something that comes to mind that's also very rewarding, particularly, you know, when you look at mentoring, you know, when you can say to yourself that, you know, there is great joy at the end of the road in terms of achieving your dream and be successful in your career. As I look at yourselves, as I look at kids in the pre-college area and seeing that this dream can be theirs, seeing that I can help them obtain that dream, be excited for them as they continue to see push forward. That's amazingly rewarding. Why I can actually continue to mentor and give back. But even in that, I'm able to show a great deal of creativity and help them to be creative in solving those problems. So for engineers, it's all about solving problems and working through possibilities. And I started off earlier, absolutely.
Well, if you can believe it, I started in pre-veterinary medicine, and like others, I said 7 years of school. That's a whole lot of time to be a poor college student. So luckily, I changed to marketing and transportation logistics, thinking I was going to be working for the city, designing all sorts of ways to be economical and get them from one place to the other. But once I discovered that the anchor that I had was actually passion, the passion for people, the passion to help see folks, and that I really like the science of human behavior, really understanding where people are coming from and how I can help people get where they need to go. And someone took a chance because they kept asking, where can we find African American males to do this, or Latina females to do that? And I'm sitting in the room, it's like, you find them in the same place you find everybody else, at the Chamber of Commerce and at MBA conferences and all these other places. You just have to look for them and make a concerted effort. So my passion, my interest in human resources and public relations was that reward that I could help somebody get a job, I could help talk to somebody and explain to them to how to transfer those transferable skills to a career. This is what you want to do, this is what you want to be. It's all about getting a degree at the end of the day. Get your degree, then look for your job, look for your passion, look for what you want to do. I was in marketing and now I'm in HR, and I had to learn. So that passion to learn, to get there. And again, I think several folks here have said that transferable skills. The additional passion for me is children. That's why I'm on the Columbus Board of Education and hope to become a teacher someday. And just seeing them learn, something someone said, when you see that trigger go, when many of you may or may not know, those of you who are studying, all of you are studying STEM, you can practice that almost in any field. If you have seen some of the new Columbus City School buildings, we have many of them that have solar panels, water recycling, where we build on the roof where the water comes in, it recycles through, it comes through our toilets, so we can save money at the end of the day and save taxpayer money. We created schools that have natural lighting so we can use less light for our children to study. So there is a lot of opportunity for you to utilize your degree. So don't just, I think you've seen a lot of areas where you can utilize your skills. What I want you to know is that you can use those skills in many different aspects of a career.
Like I said, my parents were from Puerto Rico, and my dad was in charge of picking everybody up at the airport. So when I was young, I would always go to Cleveland International Airport. And back then, you were allowed to go out onto the observation deck and watch the planes come in. Now with TSA, you're not even allowed to enter the airport almost. So at age 16, I started flying. So I enjoyed the flight, the being in the air. Currently, I'm close to 3/4 of a year of being actually in the air. I'm over 6,000 hours of flight time, and it's just something that I really enjoy, and I continue to enjoy. The most rewarding part of it is licensing other pilots, teaching them how to fly. And recently, there was a young lady that was joining the Navy, and I had to get her check ride done the day before she left to the Navy when she passed the test. And my exams are not easy, they're standardized, but I don't give them away. I'm not a Santa Claus. She passed the test, we came out, and I said, congratulations, and I got the biggest hug from this young lady. And what was rewarding to me was that she was joining the Navy to be a fighter pilot. And maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that was unheard of. But now they're female fighter pilots and everything. So I feel that I was part of that, where she can go after her dreams.
Thank you. So, what are your questions?
So, you are very accomplished before. So I was wondering, even though you are very accomplished now, but there's always that one time in your career where like things like go wrong. You're like, wow, I'm trying to get to this, you know. But later on you learn, you know. So it's like, what was that one thing you wish you knew before that you know now that you need to start through that process?
It's open to anyone with an answer.
I'll answer that one. As a person in manufacturing, I fail every day. If you on my nightstand, and my wife can attest, I have a book called Failing Forward. I've been reading it because I go through very emotional times in what I do. I work high pressure situations, and I'm always trying to go into the turnaround operations. The lesson that I wish I knew at the beginning of my career that I know now is it's going to be okay. Trust yourself. You're intelligent, you're bright, you're ambitious. It's going to be okay, and it's okay not to be right. You are going to fail. Everyone in this room, please note that. You are going to fail, you are going to fail, and at some point you're going to make a huge, huge mistake at work. And guess what? It's okay. We have all made it, not because of how great we are, we've made it past those failures. And that's something that's very hard to do. Most people that fail, that don't have the right attitude, never make it back. So just remember that you will fail, and it's okay. I wish I knew that early. I would be less emotional now. I would have been less emotional during those periods, but I'm starting to get much better at this point.
You're an engineer in the house?
I'm not that kind of engineer. So I would say the most difficult thing for me was finishing the PhD because, well, it's a lot of school and if they were giving away, everyone would have one, right? And so I'm not sure how much you know about graduate school, but okay, in undergrad it's very similar to high school. The teacher goes up there, he says stuff or she says stuff, and take an exam, and then after 4 years he gives you a paper or fine or whatever. He gives you a paper that says you are now engineered. Okay. When you go to grad school now, you are creating new knowledge. So there are textbooks you can use as a reference, but really and truly there is no definitive answer. That's why it's called grad school. And so you are forging ahead and trying to see what is the answer, what are all the other options. And so I would say the thing that I wish I knew was enjoy the journey, because just as Brian said, PhD means you're a professional failure, okay? So I failed literally every day in a different way. Carrie can attest. You fail every day in a different way, and you know, you can think of it as 5 years of depression, but really and truly, it's learning how to be okay with uncertainty, and you have to learn how to take action without knowing everything. And I think functioning in the realm of uncertainty really allows you to grow. And I think you can apply that to a lot of areas of life, not just school. So one, learn to be as okay as you can be with uncertainty. It's okay to fail. That's how you learn, and that's how you grow. And it really does develop you as a person and change your perspective on how you approach other problems. Nothing else is that big of a deal. I mean, this morning I had a flat tire. You know what? School's over. I don't have homework anymore. It's not that big of a deal, right? I have AAA. Awesome. So you know what I did? I was able to do my laundry and clean up while I was waiting on AAA. There's always a bright side, right? So you learn to chill out. Oh yes, chill out. Yes, that is definitely something that I wish I knew. Oh my God, chill out. Like really, it's not easy to chill out. It's really not. Like everything is about perspective, and some things may seem like a tornado, but when you think about them in perspective, they're really not that big a deal. You know, I had a flat tire, that means I have a car, right? And seriously, right? about that, then everything just really doesn't get to you as much, and I think that you get to enjoy the experience and not so much of this is my to-do list, I need to do A and then B and then C, because life is really about the journey, and so chill out.
I think the other thing you need to remember is that it's okay to say I don't know. I think as minority students, as minorities, as women, we always feel that we have to have that answer. And I studied 4 years, I have this degree, I should know this, but I can't remember what accounting 201 was. It's okay, especially I think a lot of us talked about how we had to continuously reinvent ourselves. I didn't know a thing about IT other than where the on button was, and I knew it had a keyboard and it had a mouse, and that's about it. I had to learn what the memory card, where it went, and how many RAMs it needed, this and that, and that, I was a learner, I was willing to learn, and I've been asking a lot of questions, because sometimes we're afraid to ask questions because we might look dumb, right? I'm not gonna ask the professor a question, I'm not gonna ask for help. That's the other thing, I'm not gonna ask for help because I'm gonna be seen as weakness, but I'll tell you, you do have to be careful, don't also look like you don't know anything, so don't ask 1,000 questions, limit it down to about 2 or 3. It's okay, and then try to research the rest. But I think those are the biggest things. And as a person that works in human resources, and I unfortunately have the thrill or the of hiring people. Sometimes I have the thrill of hiring people, and then I have the misfortune of also being the person that walks you out. So I get to be the person that fires you, unfortunately. But what happens when we get to that point is because people didn't ask for help. People didn't say, I don't know, and I need to be retrained. I need to learn again. And this is what people freak out. I did X, Y, Z. I said, did somebody die? Did somebody die? No. Did someone catch on fire? No. Did you do something unethical? Do you have like $1,000 in your pocket and you're walking out the door and you're not supposed to be doing that? No. Then it'll be okay. It will be okay. We'll figure it out. It'll get solved. Work with your manager. So it's just being able to, I think some people call that vulnerability, being a little bit vulnerable, and allowing yourself to learn, because you're going to learn every day. I think there's people up here in the panel that, some of our more mature panelists will tell you they're learning something every day, and it's okay, and it's exciting, and it keeps you from being bored.
All right, I'll answer shortly. How many of you speak more than one language? I wish I had paid attention in my foreign language classes. That's what I do better. So, and the fact that you do, and and some of you, and here's some of the uniqueness about this. We had a choice. Some of you had another language because you had to learn another language. You had to survive. And I'm proud of some of you because some of you probably survivors or refugees, or you come to this country and you made the difference. You're picking up the pieces, and your life's going on, and you got a legacy of your family to hold up. I wish I had paid attention. I learned French, I learned Spanish, but I didn't master it. And recently, well, been for a decade now, I married a Hungarian, one of the most difficult languages in the world. And Budapest is a beautiful country, and I wish I could talk to people more when I go over there. But I talk to my mother-in-law just a little bit, so I know just enough. So learning a foreign language, take advantage. If you will learn it because you want to, that's what you should do. Don't learn it because you have to. Do it because you want to do it.
Are there more questions?
I had just to add to that, foreseeing issues. I think as you get into your job and get more experience, being able to see obstacles that are coming ahead of time will help you to kind of veer around stress and veer around potential failures as well. As you get more experience, you see warning signs and see things to help you be aware of that. So something to learn and pick up.
I would say too, make sure you build relationships early. The stronger and deeper the relationships are, people will help you identify those things that you can't see around the corner that they've already experienced. So, with every position, there's always a new ground and new expectations. So it's like you're starting all over again. And, having those relationships, folks to say, oh no, I've already did that, or I've already had that failure. You don't have to go down the same road. But sometimes it's very easy to feel isolated. You feel like, okay, I'm the youngest, I'm this, I'm that. And you don't reach out to people that may not look like you, may be older, may have different, experiences, backgrounds, but, having those folks in your circle, in your network, they can help you soften the blow when you have those failures, and they can help avoid and alleviate some of the ones that could easily just say, oh no, don't go down that road. You've already tried it. Did you make sure you check this? Did you do this? So just having those relationships with people before you fail, having that genuine relationship where people feel comfortable telling you things and helping you out.
I want to add something that is is related, but I think it's important. One of the things that I wish that I had known earlier was to discover that I had a learning disability. I didn't find out that I had ADD until I was in grad school, and my advisors helped me. And once I figured that out, it made a huge difference. How I perform in school after work, how I realized that I've been working so hard those years. I always thought, like, why I have to work so much harder than my peers to get similar grades, and sometimes not as good, even though that I'm the one teaching them, tutoring them, and they perform better than me. And it wasn't until my graduate advisor realized that there's something with you probably should look into it. So if any of you think you have a learning disability, or if you know you have it, don't be proud. There's a lot of resources, a lot of help. You're not taking advantage of anything. You are just getting what you need. So seek the help. It really makes a difference. And also start documenting it right now, because you're gonna need it when you go to the workplace. Sometimes you might need accommodations, depends on what you have. Some workplaces, right now you go and you hear a lot of these workplaces so great, and Google is open and everyone works like it's a party. If I were there, I would be miserable because it's just too much distraction. And something you need to have that you need to document it, so whenever you're in the workplace, you can have and work with that with your future employers if you need to.
Other questions? Yeah.
So this is maybe for the engineers. So in your undergrad, you have your classification university and your applied education, your major courses. So I've heard that the New York classes are that your major is how's that an experience that you guys had with your major courses, just as far as the New York classes?
No, don't worry about that. Things get easier and easier as well as you progress. Grad schools, even easier than undergrad. It's just a lot more interesting too, because you are just concentrating on the things that you like more. And yes, classes become more interesting to you. And the teachers are not so interested in weeding you out, but in helping you to become what you need to become. So yes, things are gonna get much better. If you are now in your second year, pass the course. Stick to it.
I would also note that to tag off of what Irene said, grad school is a lot more interesting, I felt. Master's classes, for me, were a lot more easier than my undergrad classes, because like she said, you're passionate about it, and it's fun, and you're interested in it. They're not just making you take 101, 202 because you have to get there. So definitely, if you weren't thinking about it before, you may want to pursue that, maybe take a class or two just to see how it feels, and then, get into it, because it is a big difference.
I would agree that it's not the classes are necessarily easier, that you are more interested in them. So I absolutely agree with that. Now, grad school, master's, and PhD are different. In the beginning, you take classes, and so you are more interested in them. But I would not say it's easier. I would say that graduate school, the metrics are different. So again, in undergrad, you take a class, you have a professor, they are giving you knowledge, it's still your responsibility to learn. They're not really teachers per se, but still this whole, I present information, you regurgitate it back, I give you a grade, okay? In graduate school, it's a little more nuanced, and so your metrics for success are more difficult to define. And so it may seem easier because it's not as structured, but you have to find ways to differentiate yourself, because not performing well in grad school isn't a C. Not performing in grad school is being asked to leave. Okay, so it's a little more nuanced and not as explicit as undergrad.
I would definitely say that, the first 2 years, in terms of how I enjoyed versus the last 2 years, certainly the last 2 years I enjoyed it. I think the big thing you want to make sure is that you choose the right major. If you choose something that you don't enjoy, I think it can be just as painful as the first 2 years. I love, like I said, I love math, so I love my math classes. Wasn't that big. Sorry, no offense, Russell Chief, did not enjoy my physics classes nearly as much, or my chemistry classes, or, but once I got to my major, because I loved the process and loved the ability to do real world problems, I enjoyed it. So I just think but I think it's important though to get into something you enjoy. Because I did, conversely, I didn't enjoy grad school as much because I chose something that I didn't really enjoy, which I thought I would, but at the time I didn't enjoy it so much, so I didn't enjoy grad school nearly as much.
In the interest of time, I'm going to stop the questions right now because, one, I need to give you all some homework to do for the summer. Most of you are finished finals. The first thing I'd like you to do is get business cards tonight from our panel members and follow up with them, at least maybe 2 of them. Follow up with some of the panel members. If you have additional questions for specific panel members, make sure you get their business card or contact information and continue the discussion. Also, over the summer, try to participate in at least one STEM-related activity. Attend a workshop or go to a science museum or interview a STEM professional. Keep thinking about, where you're headed with your STEM degree. Also, make sure you visit the undergraduate research office website. Get to be very familiar with it. Particularly look at the parts about how to choose a mentor, how to choose a project, how to look for funding, and make a commitment to making an appointment with Jackie Lippart over at the undergraduate research office and talk with her one-on-one on possibilities for undergraduate research for you for next year. If you're not currently involved in undergraduate research, that is, make sure that you meet with her. And another project I'd like you to think about is try to, if you know any middle school age kids, try to talk with them and interest them in STEM, because we certainly need to have a pathway for more STEM majors. So those are your homework for items for tonight. So now at this point, I'd like us to thank our panel members, and then I'll give you an opportunity to come on up, talk with them one-on-one, and make sure you get those business cards so that you can continue the discussion. So thank you very much.